Wow.
Look at us.
Lovely. Lovely.
Crazy, right?
Crazy.
What do you do when you're in a newsroom and something like this, not your newsroom because it's sophisticated and urbane, but when something like this email scandal, and it's so salacious and it's got so many layers to it, and it so speaks to privilege and corruption and invincibility at the highest levels, is that the trifecta for journalists to kind of dig into? What is the sense of this?
You know, the journalists have been digging into this from the very beginning. It was great journalists, obviously, who revealed it from the very beginning of when all this stuff started years ago. It was a great journalist from the Miami Herald.
Julie Brown, sure.
Yes, indeed, who broke the actual story of the, you know, sort of not so serious plea deal that he copped all those years ago, and lived, as you just said, in a sort of a country club existence. I just think that these are the stories that we have to cover.
Sure.
That, yes, they touch people high, low, all over the place, but nonetheless, you can't shy away from it. This is the responsibility of journalism to, without fear or favor, without, you know, being one side or the other, to just go for the truth and to follow, as they say, follow the money, but in this case, follow whatever.
Do you think the current media setup is capable of that?
Yes. And I think the current media setup is doing it.
Really?
It's not an accident that a lot of the reveals that you're talking about come from FOIA requests, freedom of information, come from CNN broke some of it a week ago. I think was part of a group of journalists who broke some of it a week ago. And I do believe that journalists are absolutely able to get to the bottom of this and any story. That's what investigative journalists are trained to do, to find, is there a there?
Right.
And
tell me about the separation. Here's my concern.
Yeah.
You mentioned Julie Brown and Miami Herald. Very clearly, the money in this business is moving away from not just international on-the-ground reporting, but local reporting. For people like that, journalists that are in the weeds. But, you know, the work that she did, will there be journalists to do that when the money is being funneled into much more weaponized media, much noisier media, media conglomeration?
That pains me. The weaponization of the media, the weaponization of speech, the weaponization of journalism, and, as you say, the shifting of resources away from this kind of journalism and towards something that's just not as expensive to cover. It takes resources to cover and to conduct serious investigations.
Yes.
Not just money, but people. You know, people who are going to be tasked with not having to do breaking news and standing always and doing these, you know, stand-ups outside, you know, wherever, and actually going and doing what they do, pounding the streets, using the shoe leather, all those cliches are real. And I think that is something that we have to all really keep in mind, that no matter what it is, whether it's a foreign story that I cover overseas, whether it's an investigation over here or wherever, these are the bread and butter of real journalism, and it is still happening, but you're right, the resources are very, very stretched. And the other thing you mentioned is the corporatization, conglomeration, and, you know, it doesn't always improve the quality of journalism.
We have more information now
Yes.
than I think we've probably had in the entirety of human existence, but we have less insight.
And less understanding.
Right.
And less knowledge. More information, less knowledge.
Right.
So I always say, and I would say that, wouldn't I, that people really do have to, and I will say it, have to be very careful where they choose their media. I'm over there, look.
Did you just scold my audience?
Sorry, no!
Did you just down the pipe? Hold on a second. You go to me. You guys are doing great. No.
Did I finish what I said?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Just find your news from trusted and credible organizations, all right?
Right.
Don't go down the rabbit hole.
But how do you do that when the algorithm has such gravitational pull?
It's a pain in the neck, and it's really hard.
Right.
And it's a struggle. And it's a struggle when also, as I said, you know, it's weaponized to a degree that it hasn't been in my experience anyway. Maybe somewhere in the past it was like this. But you can barely cover all sides of a story. I mean, you can barely be an actual journalist and cover this side and that side and come up with, you know, what's going on.
Are we making the
without
mistake?
People saying you're on the wrong side or the right side?
Are we making the mistake of buying into, for most news now, the right-left paradigm, as opposed to something more exclusively corruption versus integrity?
I think so.
Is that something that feels like a business model that would have legs? I think there's such thirst for people to... Corruption is so endemic in these systems, and I think the Epstein case shows it has no party, it has no favor. There is a stratosphere that exists beyond accountability. And that feels ripe for not just good journalism, but good business.
I think, you know, it's the drip, drip, drip nature of all of this. Had it all been done, as President Trump said in his campaign, had they released all the files and this and that, it would have been done and dumped and dusted, right? And then people would have taken what they could and saw, and you did this evening. But I think it's the drip, drip, drip. It's the sort of story that's going around that there is a division within MAGA, within the president's own base on this. And so it's a story that keeps feeding itself because it's just still out there. And I think you can't ask journalists not to cover this stuff because it's clearly important. I mean,
no,
it's not just here.
No, it's corruption.
And it's happening in the UK, as you know. It's touched members of the royal family, well, a member of the royal family who's been defenestrated by his brother, the king. You know, the prince.
Wait, what did the king do to him?
Literally.
I think I saw that in Braveheart.
Literally. I mean, out of his house, right?
They defenestrate
Maybe
you.
he went out the window.
But
I don't know.
think about what's shocking to me is the length of time before accountability. And even then, with Prince Andrew being the avatar of all of this, but there's clearly layers and layers underneath it, his punishment is, you are no longer a prince. Like, in what world is this sex trafficking ring? Somehow the only thing that happens is one guy's not a prince and the other one gets all the toilet paper she can use. How does that seem just or fair?
Listen,
to anybody watching this?
As you know, we and I have spent many, many years covering sex trafficking around the world. I've done pieces on 60 Minutes about sex trafficking from the collapse of the former Soviet Union. I've done, you know, the oppression and the victimization and the mass rape of women during war,
right.
The abuse of children all over the world. So it is very, very clear that there is a conscience and there is a morality to covering these stories. It's very clear. And that the victims, as always, must be heard and must be listened to. And there should be, you know, justice clearly. So we don't know, I don't know how this is all going to transpire, but
right.
you hear, certainly regarding the UK case, that certainly politicians in the United States have suggested that there might be more testimony required, etc.
Right.
So I think that that justice is being pursued on
right.
this and other issues.
When you are traveling the world and you're getting to interview some of those that are in these halls of power or that live on that plane of a lack of accountability, is it they just breathe it like air, or is it evident the utter lack of accountability?
I think, look, from what I have experienced in my life, talking to certain, you know, people of great privilege, and often unelected, by the way,
right.
where I come
Autocrats
from.
and stuff.
Yeah, they're
sure.
there for life.
Sure.
So when that happens, you become hugely arrogant because you feel you are entirely invincible. And until some revolution happens or somebody, you know, comes out...
So you get humbled by the people.
Yeah. And I find that arrogance is a very, very common through line, a thread to all the people who I've interviewed in the past,
right.
who've had other situations to answer to. The arrogance, the belief that no. There's not one law. There is several laws. Right. One for the rich and famous, one for the powerful, one. Then they're the ordinary people.
Right.
You know.
That's why
it shouldn't be like that. And there needs to be rule of law, and we need to stand up for that.
But
everywhere.
in our country, I think that's why we're all so pleased by the humility of our leaders. I think. What do you think of, you know, I've been impressed that the best bulwark against authoritarianism in this country has been the American people. Trump may want the trappings of a dictator. He might want the iconography. He might want all those things. But I find that, for a wannabe authoritarian, he's not that popular. Around the world, despots are generally, they're actually usually pretty popular, especially at first.
I was hoping you'd ask me this question.
Really?
Do you know what's happening tonight as we speak? According to Politico, I don't want to be held, to account.
Sure.
But the president is making a speech on affordability tonight. He's answered the people. He's heard the people.
Choose your news sources wisely. He's unpopular.
No, you asked. This is answering the people. The people spoke at the election.
That's right.
And the president got the message. Now, on, what was that? Accountability?
Right.
Yeah. We need to hold power accountable. That's what we do. The notion that we should be bending a knee here or bowing there.
Right.
I grew up in a monarchy. I
Yes.
I know what's that like.
Right.
And I know what it's like.
My impression is, and this is not, I'm not talking about you, I'm not talking about specific journalists.
I'm talking about the Iranian monarchy.
Exactly. I understand that. But it feels to me like the guardrails of our society in America that have failed us have been saved by the people.
And that's what it's meant to be.
Exactly. But it hasn't been the corporate leadership, or it hasn't been Congress, and it hasn't been the judiciary, although there's been underneath the Supreme Court. But it's been the president says, I want to be like Orban, and I'm just going to pull people off the air that say things I don't like. And the American people go, it then, I'm canceling Disney Hulu. And 3 days later, Kimmel's back on the air. And that's why, people here, they're always saying, what can we do? And I always say back, you're doing it.
Yeah.
We're holding a line on this.
It's
I
working.
think much more effectively than people might realize.
I actually agree with you, and I think that's really important. And we have to just keep doing it. We're fighting the headwinds, right? I mean, it's very difficult, but we have to keep doing it. And as I say, without fear nor favor, without being political, being journalists, truthful, not neutral, just do it. What else do we have to do? What do we have to lose?
Do you think journalists are honest about? And you define journalism in a different way because the media is obviously not a monolith.
Yeah.
But there is a sense sometimes that the journalists are high on their supply as well. There's a little bit of the, Is
that a drug thing?
Yes.
I don't do drugs. Be careful.
But there's a little bit of the democracy dies in darkness.
Yeah.
But they're not showing light oftentimes. They're just playing into the circus.
Sometimes you can get very caught up in the circus,
Yes.
as you know, in the horse race, into set of the policy. I mean, how many times have pundits and polls been wrong about elections? Okay, my point. But often we do the important good news stories
Yes.
when they're, elections, and I'm talking about around the world now, where there's a triumph of justice, when war criminals are
Right.
put in front of the tribunal and are actually,
Yes.
tried, sentenced, and
Are
convicted.
we shining a light on the right? If democracy dies in darkness, are we shining a light on the right work, is my question. You have great people that are doing things at great risk to themselves in all kinds of places that are really dangerous. Are we shining the proper light on that work, or are we wasting too much on nothing?
I think that, obviously, you've just answered your own question. Guys, be careful where you get your source of news from. So.
Yes. It is true. So you grew up in
Iran, yeah.
What is it about, people say Hungary, Putin, North Korea. Is there something in America that makes those kinds of authoritarian takeovers more difficult? Is it that they're grafting something that's alien to this particular culture? Because I do think it's not as easy to do it here. It feels like the people fight it a little.
Well, no, they do. I mean,
Yeah.
Are you having me on now?
Sorry?
Are you joking with me? Of course people here are fighting it. This is the United States of America.
No, that's what I mean.
You have a constitution.
Yes.
You have rule of law. You have a First Amendment.
Right.
And if we don't defend it, more fool us. More fool us and more fool everybody. If we don't defend our democracy when we have a whole rule of law, I'm not American, I'm just saying our because I'm sitting here trying to be polite. But it's up to us, right? Those people don't have the option. When they tried in Iran, all the women, you know, went out in the street and what happened? Beaten down, shot, put in jail, and yet they keep coming out. Of course, killed. Journalists being killed all over the place, trying to do their job. I mean, this is deadly serious stuff that we do, and it's really important to realize that we're not here playing a game. We're not here to score points or to get, you know, more views on social media. We're here to do a job that's vital and protected by the US Constitution, that upholds a strong democracy, that creates a healthy democracy. So here's an example. I really hope to God that the BBC is not crushed under the weight of an attack and an assault on the BBC. It's one of the greatest public service television broadcasters in the world. And it's not just news. BBC World Service, BBC Culture, Sports, David Attenborough. I mean, come on. And be careful what you wish for, because if you torpedo that, then what do we have? You know, in BBC in England, there's a thing called GB News. Actual sitting politicians have shows. Has that ever been, you know, hauled into account by the governing body of Ofcom and this and that? Sorry.
Well, yeah, we do that in this country as well. I mean, there's a revolving door. Oh, yeah.
Actual shows?
Oh, absolutely.
Am I thick?
There are a lot of people that, like, when they run for president, have to stop their show. I mean, the Secretary of the Department of War came from a Saturday morning chat show.
I'm talking about active.
No, they literally have shows.
Yeah, but he stopped it. Then he became.
When they announce. But there's all kinds of rules in there about, like, if you don't announce, you get to stay on your show for the whole thing. Or they invite the politician to be on their show all the time as just an infomercial. No, believe me, America is not.
Here for a while,
this may be a surprise to you. We may not be the shining star of integrity that you think we are.
Yeah. Well, it's getting a little tarnished. The view of America overseas is becoming quite tarnished because this administration seems to want to push its friends away instead of hugging them, instead of keeping them close for strength and allies and fighting, you know, the good fight. You want to make America great again? You have to do it in a team.
All right. It's all about, so it's just we're a hug away from making this world.
I'm trying to be polite, all right?
Fair
but
enough.
You've got a big problem overseas.
You know,
brand America is no longer as popular as it used to be.
What is the biggest danger to what you do, to what really good journalists do in this current environment then?
What's the real danger?
Yeah, what's the biggest danger?
Being shut down. Being fired, being shut down, being censored. That is dangerous. That is dangerous, you know.
And then there's the real danger that we don't even realize.
That's not
people that are covering it in actual dangerous places.
Well, look, the CPJ, I'm hosting the gala on Thursday, the annual gala.
Fantastic organization.
Fantastic, which protects and supports and, you know, stands by journalists all over the world. You know, there are something like 327, if I've got the number right, of journalists jailed around the world.
And how many killed this year?
2024 was the deadliest year.
Absolutely.
126 were killed. This year, 113 have been killed, and the year's not out. And it is a dreadful situation. When even democracies screw around with us. It's not okay.
No. But you stay with it, and BBC stuff doesn't affect CNN International. You're good.
I mean, look, when we make mistakes, we have to own up to it.
Yes.
But the answer is not to then to torpedo and crash
everything
a
else.
Very important
Final
institution.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Are they literally going to evacuate Tehran?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
For those who don't know, Tehran has been going through a water emergency, as much as those people have had to deal with.
Now it's a water.
Now they've run out of water.
They managed to get through the very brutal summer. The lakes are drying up, but they managed to get through the summer. So they think that they have passed that tipping point of having to evacuate. But it's massive mismanagement and it's climate change.
And all those things. But it looks like that.
So far.
Well.
We're 2 months past the deadline of having to evacuate.
Well, I so appreciate you coming by.
I appreciate you having me.
And spending the time and putting all in that good work for CPJ. Amanpour is available to stream in the U.S. on CNN. And check out the podcast, The X-Files. Jamie Rubin, Christiane Amanpour.